This lecture is going to focus on another type of 6/4 chord. This is known as a pedal 6/4 chord, and it's sometimes also referred to as a neighboring 6/4 chord. So it's basically two terms for the same thing, and you'll see why a theorist might choose one option over another after you finish this lecture. This is actually a very simple 6/4 chord to write, and it's also fairly easy to recognize in music because of that pedal motion that occurs in the bass. So let's actually get into this and talk about the pedal and the neighboring 6/4. So if we look at the pedal and neighboring 6/4 in measure 49 down here on the bottom of the screen, what we have is a 1 chord, it moves to a 4/6/4 and it comes down to a 1. In measure 50 we have a 1 chord, goes to a 4/6/4 and it comes down to a 1. So in these two instances what we're doing is we are embellishing this 1 chord with this really unstable 4/6/4 chord. So this just creates a way to embellish that tonic area. So if I were to play the first example, it sounds something like this. Really easy to play, really easy to write. And you'll recognize it because of that pedal motion that occurs in the bass. So if we go on to measure 50, you'll notice that I've just revoiced it, but you still have the pedal point, which is doubled at the octave between the bass here and the alto, and then we have this neighboring motion that occurs between the soprano and the tenor, but the actual notes that are used are identical. So if I were to play this one, it would sound like this. Gives a little bit more of a fuller texture simply because you're getting that common tone in the middle voice, and it's creating some separation between this third movement. So when you have these intervals of a third that just go in parallel motion like that and they're right next to each other, it becomes really obvious, you really hear it. So let's go ahead and play these two examples again so you can hear the difference. That's measure 49, now here's measure 50. They're both pedal 6/4s, it's just one's hiding some of the neighbor motion in an inner voice. So if you look at measure 51 and 52, you'll notice in the key of C, the bass note is a G. So in this case, we are embellishing the dominant area. So this 5 chord here, if I were to play it, sounds very strong. So it gives this really powerful embellishment of the dominant area. So you can see that the pedal or neighboring 6/4 can embellish either the tonic or the dominant area. If I play measure 52, that's just another voicing of it, but it's still embellishing the dominant area. One's lighter simply because the overall octave register has been displaced by about an octave. So you can use these to embellish most commonly the tonic area or the dominant area, but they could be used for the predominant area as well. That's just less common. So if you were to embellish it in the predominant area, you just start with a 4 chord, then you move up by step with your neighboring motion, maintain your common tone, and then come back down to the 4 chord. So all you do to create a pedal or neighboring 6/4 is you just put that 6/4 chord right in the middle of those two chords. So it uses a pedal point to expand phrase areas. This is why we typically call it a pedal 6/4, because of that pedal point motion in the bass. Sometimes a theorist might refer to it as a neighboring 6/4 if they feel that the neighboring motion takes precedent over the pedal motion, it's more prominent. Or in some very unusual cases, I've actually seen what is effectively a pedal 6/4, but you don't have that pedal tone in the bass. So a theorist might analyze it as a pedal 6/4 if you still have that neighboring motion between two of the chord members and you still have that pedal point, even if that pedal point doesn't occur in the bass. It's not really a 6/4 chord anymore because without that pedal in the bass, you don't get the fifth of the second chord. So notice that the second chord here, we basically have an F, A, and C. That's a 4 chord in C major. C is a fifth, and it's in the bass. That's what creates a 6/4 second inversion sound. Same thing here. F, A, C, the fifth is in the bass. So writing a pedal 6/4 is actually very easy. So if you want to embellish the tonic area, what you do is you write a 1 chord and you put the root in the bass and you just hold it across. You don't even have to think about whether or not you're writing a 4/6/4 or what type of 6/4 chord you're writing. All you do is just hold that common tone. And then you duplicate it at the octave in one of the voices. In this case, it's in the tenor. Over here, we have it duplicated in the alto. It doesn't matter what voice, it really depends on the sound and the texture you're going for. So then the other two voices, you fill in the remaining chord tones for the 1 chord. So we've got our C, we need an E, and we need a G. And then you just move up by step within the key. So this G goes up to A, the E goes up to F, and then it just comes right back down. And you notice all of these do the same thing. E goes up to F, down to E, G, A, G. Here for the 5 chord, it's the same thing. You put the bass note here in the bass, you put the root right here, you hold it across, and then you double it in one of the other voices. Doesn't matter the voice you double it in. And then you just create neighbor motion for the rest of the chord tones. And all you have to do then is just check to see what chord you've actually formed. Make sure it is a 6/4 chord. So here we have an F, an A, and the 5th is in the bass, so that is a 4/6/4. Here we have a C, an E, and a G is in the bass, so that is a 1/6/4. And that's all there is to it. You can also identify these with an N/6/4. That's a little bit less commonly used. But typically when you're doing analysis, if you have a Roman numeral analysis, you've got your 1 chord, you write 4/6/4, then you write 1. Then underneath it, you write pedal 6/4 to indicate how that 6/4 chord is functioning. It's functioning as a pedal embellishment of the tonic area. So if you prefer, you could write N/6/4 instead of pedal 6/4. It's really maybe up to how you perceive the phrase. If you think the neighboring motion is prominent, maybe you'd label it as an N/6/4. If you think the pedal motion is the prominent feature, you might label it as a pedal 6/4. And that's really all there is to it. So there's your pedal 6/4 chord. I have created some chord construction videos as well, which just go over the basics of how to construct this. But you'll find that the pedal 6/4 or the neighboring 6/4 is very commonly used in music because it's such an effective way to embellish the tonic area or the dominant area or the predominant without actually leaving the key or writing a very complex chord progression. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time.